SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning, students. My name is Shalini Sharma. I am a working professional in child rights, having experience of 5 years of working as chairperson Child Welfare Committee and more than 1.5 years in my present role as member Juvenile Justice Board. Today, I am here to take your course on Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, and our module for the day is Child Welfare Committee. Children, in last lecture, lecture number 1, we studied about the evolution of the Juvenile Justice Act, wherein we had brief idea about the evolution of Juvenile Justice Act, which is a product of the British jurisprudence and our lessons learnt over the years. We also understood who is a child and who are children in need of care and protection and who is a child in conflict with the law. We also learnt about the 16 principles of Juvenile Justice Act around which the entire act revolves and which serves as a guiding light for the practitioners involved in this act. So, the learning objectives of our today class is formation of Child Welfare Committee, who are child in need of care and protection, a quick recap, working of Child Welfare Committee, roles and responsibilities of CWCs and orders and inquiry initiated by Child Welfare Committee. So, let us start our class with a brief introduction of the Juvenile Justice Act. The future of children holds the future of the nation, and therefore, protection of children is of prime importance. India is a huge country with largest number of children population. The juvenile justice recognizes that young people are different from adults and require different approach to justice. This act provides for the care, protection and treatment of children who are in need of care and protection or who are in conflict with the law. It also deals with the adoption of children, their rehabilitation, their social reintegration. The Act recognizes the principle of restorative justice and promotes rehabilitation and reintegration of children in conflict with the law back into the society. Child Welfare Committee is a statutory body appointed as a competent authority for all children in need of care and protection by the Juvenile Justice Act. Child Welfare Committee is also called the face of juvenile justice because the children who require care and protection are more in number. Section 27 of the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act defines the Child Welfare Committee. Let's read this section verbatim. 27 Subclause 1. The state government shall by notification in the official gazette constitute for every district one or more child welfare committees for exercising the powers and to discharge the duties conferred on such committees in relation to children in need of care and protection under this Act, and ensure that induction training and sensitization of all the members of the committee is provided within 2 months from the date of notification. The committee shall consist of a chairperson and 4 other members as the state government may think fit to appoint, of whom at least one shall be a woman and another an expert on the matters of child rights. Third, the District Child Protection Unit shall provide a secretary and other staff that may be required for secretariat support to the committee for its effective functioning. Subclause 4 says, no person shall be appointed as a member of the committee unless such person has been actively involved in health, education or welfare activities pertaining to children for at least 7 years or is a practicing professional with a degree in child psychology, psychiatry or law or social work or sociology or human development. Subclause 5 says, no person shall be appointed as a member unless he possess such other qualification as may be prescribed. Subclause 6, no person shall be appointed for a period of more than 3 years as a member of the committee. Subclause 7, the appointment of any member of the committee shall be terminated by the state government after making inquiry. Clause 1, he has been found guilty of misuse of power vested on him under this act. Subclause 2, he has been convicted of an offence involving moral turpitude and such conviction has not been reversed or he has not been granted full pardon in respect of such offence. Subclause 3 says, if he fails to attend the proceedings of the committee consecutively for 3 months without any valid reason or he fails to attend less than 3/4 of the sitting in a year, the district magistrate shall conduct a quarterly review of the committee. Subclause 9, the committee shall function as a bench and shall have the powers conferred by the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 on a metropolitan magistrate or, as the case may be, a judicial magistrate of first class. The district magistrate shall be the grievance redressal authority for the child welfare committee and anyone connected with the child may file the petition before the district magistrate who shall consider and pass appropriate orders. Now students, let's try to understand section 27 in easy words. Child Welfare Committee is a statutory body constituted under section 27 of the JJ Act for every district. These committees are responsible for helping children who need care and protection. The committee shall consist of 5 members, including chairperson and 4 other members. Amongst them, one has to be a female and one has to be an expert in child rights. Child Welfare Committee is a competent authority to dispose of all the cases of child in need of care and protection. This means, except for the Child Welfare Committee, no court, no authority can entertain the cases of child in need of care and protection. They are given the power of a bench of magistrate or judicial magistrate and their order can be challenged only in the court. This means that Child Welfare Committee is not an ordinary committee. It has been conferred with the powers of a first class magistrate. So, if they pass an order or they issue and summon, the person has to oblige and has to appear before the concerned Child Welfare Committee. For its effective functioning, the committee shall be provided a secretary and other staff for secretarial support by the District Child Protection Unit. The district magistrate has been made the nodal officer in the Juvenile Justice Act and he shall hear the grievances arising out of the functioning of the committee, and the affected child or anyone connected with the child can file a complaint before the district magistrate who shall investigate the matter and after giving both the parties an opportunity of being heard, pass appropriate order. No one can be member of the committee for more than 3 years. And now, as per the model rules 15, subclause 4, a member of the committee shall be eligible for appointment of maximum 2 terms, which shall not be consecutive. But a recent amendment in Model Rules in 2022 incorporated, a member is not barred from becoming a chairperson of the CWC, and this will not amount to second continuous term. No person shall be eligible for selection as a member of the committee, since this committee is entrusted with a very noble role of looking after need and care of children who are victims, who are thrusted out of the safety net of the society. So, the qualifications of working in this committee are very strict, and similarly the disqualifications are also prescribed in the Act. Let us see the disqualifications. According to this section 27 subclause 4, if the member has any past record of violation of human rights or child rights, he cannot be appointed as a member in the Child Welfare Committee. If any person has been convicted of an offence involving moral turpitude and such conviction has not been reversed or not has been granted full pardon in respect of such offence, such person is not entitled to be a member in the Child Welfare Committee. Third, has been removed or dismissed from the service of the Government of India or state government or an undertaking or a corporation owned or controlled by the Government of India or state government. So, if a person has been removed or dismissed from his services, that person can also not be appointed as a member of the Child Welfare Committee. Fourth, has ever indulged in a child abuse or employment of a child labour or an immoral act or any other violation of human rights or immoral acts. So, such person who employ little children at their home for housework, all those persons including anyone who had ever given employment to a child are not entitled to be a member of the Child Welfare Committee. Last is a part of management of a child care institution in a district. So, any member of the child care institution cannot be appointed as a member of the Child Welfare Committee because that person can have vested interest in the child, and such persons are not eligible for their appointment in the Child Welfare Committee. Next, the appointment of any member of the committee shall be terminated by the state government after making an inquiry. So, the duty is cast upon the state government if a complaint against the conduct of any member is received by the government is bound to make an inquiry about that complaint. The state government can end a member's term if they found misusing their office, if any member is found misusing the powers vested by his office or are convicted of a crime or he misses too many meetings. The legislation has a clear purpose to serve the child. If a member is found misusing or not performing, the state government can terminate the services of that member. So, let us have a quick recap of the child in need of care and protection. These are the cases which are produced before the Child Welfare Committee. First, homeless, begging, living on street children. The children who are homeless, who are begging, alone on the roads, who are living on the streets, who have no permanent abode, these are the children who require care and protection. Further, orphan and no one is ready to provide care. If a Child Welfare Committee receives an information about a child whose both parents have met an accident and no one is in the family to look after the child, that child falls in the definition of the child in need of care and protection. Working in contravention of labour laws. If Child Welfare Committee receives an information that a child is working in hazardous conditions, that child also falls in the definition of child in need of care and protection. Homeless, mentally ill, disabled child and no one to provide care. If Child Welfare Committee receives an information about any child who is a specially able child, and after inquiry the Child Welfare Committee can declare the child as child in need of care and protection. Person residing with child. If the child is staying with a person who has ever injured, abused, exploited, neglected, threatened to kill and ever killed another child, that child also falls within the definition of child in need of care and protection. Person providing care to the child is incapacitated. In this case, if biological parents of the child have met an accident and they are not able to take care of the child, they have developed some disability, they are suffering from dementia, or their physical condition is as such that they are not able to support the child, that child also can after the inquiry be declared as child in need of care and protection. Missing and runaway child who has no information where his parents or he has left his home willingly, that child also after an inquiry can be declared as child in need of care and protection. Who is likely to be abused, exploited for sexual purposes. When there is a apprehension that the child with whom he is staying or residing can take undue favor or advantage from the child, that child also after inquiry can be declared as child in need of care and protection. Who is likely to be inducted for drug use or trafficking. There are many instances where little children are made vendors or made agents for supplying drugs. Firstly, they are made drug dependent and then they are used by traffickers to supply drugs. And such children also after an inquiry can be declared as children in need of care and protection. Victim of or affected by an armed conflict, civil unrest or natural calamity. Any child who is a victim of armed conflict, civil unrest or natural calamity are also declared as child in need of care and protection. Child who is at imminent risk of marriage before attaining the age of marriage is also a child in need of care and protection. Child Welfare Committee in its regular proceedings encounter many such cases of young girls who voluntarily visit the office of Child Welfare Committee and give their statement that their parents are forcing them to get married, whereas they wanted to continue with their education, and such girls after due inquiry can also be declared as child in need of care and protection. So, section 28, now we will deal with the procedure. When a complaint is received with the Child Welfare Committee, what procedure Child Welfare Committee adopts in connection to child in need of care and protection. The committee shall meet at least 20 days in a month and shall observe such rules and procedures with regard to the transaction of business at its meeting as may be prescribed. A visit to an existing child care institution by the committee to check its functioning and well-being of children shall be considered as a sitting of the committee. A child in need of care and protection may be produced before an individual member of the committee for being placed in children's home or a fit person when the committee is not in session. Procedure in relation to committee continued. In the event of any difference of opinion among the members of the committee at the time of taking any decision, the opinion of the majority shall prevail. But where there is no such majority, the opinion of the chairperson shall prevail. Subclause 5. Subject to the provisions of subsection 1, the committee may act notwithstanding the absence of any member of the committee, and no order made by the committee shall be invalid by reason only of the absence of any member during any stage of the proceeding, provided that there shall be at least 3 members present at the final disposal of the case. Now, let us try to understand this section in simple words. The members of the committee must at least meet for 20 days of a month. When the members of the committee visit the child care institution to see its functioning, to ensure the well-being of a child who has been placed with their orders, that visit is also considered as a meeting of the committee. If a child needs immediate care and protection and the full committee is not in sitting, let's assume it's a public holiday or the child is found alone at the odd hours, the child welfare police officer or the child line or the any agency who has found the child is invariably to produce the child before the CWC. They can produce the child even before the single member who is on the roster, and the roster of the members is also prepared by the chairperson of the committee. If there is no agreement on decision, as we know that the child welfare committee has to take decisions on the child in need of care and protection, and there are many times of different members of the committee are of different opinions. They cannot reach to a common conclusion. The decision of the majority wins, and if there is no majority, then the decision of the chairperson will prevail. The committee can make decisions even if some members are absent. As if in a normal working day, we can assume that 2 members are missing. That does not mean that committee will not work for the child. The committee will work, but only for the final disposal of the case, presence of 3 members is mandatory. Now, Child Welfare Committee, as we have learnt, that they have a major role to play when it comes to a matter of child in need of care and protection. So, let us see the powers of a committee. Let us see the section 29 verbatim. The committee shall have the authority to dispose of cases for the care, protection, treatment, development and rehabilitation of children in need of care and protection, as well as to provide for their basic needs and protection. Where a committee has been constituted for any such area, such committee shall, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force, but save as otherwise expressly provided in this Act, have the power to deal exclusively with all the proceedings under this Act relating to children in need of care and protection. So, the mandate of the Act is very clear. Section 29 says the power of the committee. The committee has the final authority to dispose of cases of the children requiring care, protection, treatment, development and rehabilitation. It also has the responsibility to meet their basic needs. So, the intent of the legislation here is that they do not only have to look for the care and protection, they have to provide for the basic needs. They have to ensure that the child produced before them enjoys safe and secure environment, and all his before them is blessed with all the fundamental rights. All his rights are secured, that the child is continuing his education, and if by any reason the child is out of the school, the Child Welfare Committee will make an order that the child will continue his education. Section 30. The functions and responsibilities of the committee shall include. The functions of the committee are very elaborated. To secure the best interest of the child, they are given in express terms inside this Act. Taking cognizance of and receiving the children produced before it. If a child in need of care and protection is produced before the Child Welfare Committee, the committee has to take cognizance. The committee cannot return back the case saying that the child is not in need of care and protection. The committee has to take cognizance and receive the child produced before it, and then they have to initiate inquiry, conducting inquiry on all issues relating to and affecting the safety and well-being of the children under this Act. Then, after initiating inquiry, the Child Welfare Committee will order for a social investigation report to know about the circumstances and the history of the child. They will direct the child welfare police officer or a probation officer or a district child protection unit or a non-governmental organization like Childline or any other NGO working on the ground to conduct social investigation report and submit a report before the committee at the earliest. Conducting an inquiry for declaring fit persons for care of children in need of care and protection. Here, let us recall the principle of non-institutionalization or institutionalization as the last resort. When an abandoned child or a child run away or a missing child is produced before the child, the approach of the child should not be to send the child immediately to an institution. First, we have to explore the other possibilities like the possibilities of a fit person, and it is the duty of the Child Welfare Committee to declare the persons as fit persons to receive temporarily the child after due inquiry. Directing placement of a child in foster care. It is also the duty of the Child Welfare Committee to direct placement of a child in foster care till his repatriation, his rehabilitation, his restoration with the family. Ensuring care, protection, appropriate rehabilitation or restoration of children in need of care and protection based on the child's individual care plan. Here, another duty is cast upon the Child Welfare Committee is order for the preparation of individual care plan, which gives us an insight about the child's mind, what he aspires to be in life, what does he feels about his family. So, this individual care plan gives us an insight what's going on inside the child's mind. And passing necessary directions to parents or guardians or fit persons or children's homes or fit facility in this regard. So, after the restoration of the child and on the basis of individual care plan, the committee will direct the parents or the fit persons or the guardians that the child has stated all these things in his individual care plan and all his needs and demands should be kept in mind while restoration. Next, selecting registered institutions for placement of each child, requiring institutional support based on the child's age, gender, disability and needs and keeping in mind the available capacity of the institution. So, here also a very important and a responsible duty is casted on the Child Welfare Committee. When a child in need of care and protection is produced before the Child Welfare Committee, the Child Welfare Committee, before sending a child to a child care institution, must ensure that child's age, child's gender, child's disability. If a special able child is produced, he has to be sent to a
home specifically approved for housing children with disabilities.
If a girl child is produced, she has to be sent to a home where girls are residing, and if a child below 6 years is produced, the child has to be placed with the specialized adoption agency. And here also, before sending the child to a child care institution, the Child Welfare Committee has to ensure that the said institution has the lodging facilities for that child. They just can't send the child without any responsibility. They have to ensure that when they are sending the child to an institution, his basic needs are going to be comfortably met in that institution. Conducting at least 2 inspection visits per month of residential facilities for children in need of care and protection, and recommending action for improvement in quality of service to the District Child Protection Unit and the state government. Here, the Child Welfare Committee has been entrusted with the duty to visit all the child care institutions in their district, and this is a mandatory duty. They have to visit, they have to interact with the children in order to ensure that no child right violations, no abuse, be it sexual, be it emotional, is not happening in the child care institution. if there are any recommendations, they can share those recommendations with the district magistrate, with the district child protection unit or with the state government. Next, carrying on the execution of the surrender deed by the parents and ensuring that they are given time to reconsider their decision as well as making all efforts to keep the family together. Here, a new duty is casted upon the Child Welfare Committee, where a biological parents wish to surrender their child, they can do it only before the Child Welfare Committee. A deed is only executed in the presence of Child Welfare Committee, where presence of 3 members is mandatory. And Child Welfare Committee has to ensure that the parents who are surrendering their child are given adequate counseling and they have been given 2 months time for the reconsideration of their decision. Next, ensuring that all efforts are made for restoration of abandoned or lost children to their families following due process as may be prescribed. Students, as we know that the whole aim of the Juvenile Justice Act is the best interest of the child. So, when an abandoned, lost or a missing child is presented before the Child Welfare Committee, it is the duty of the Child Welfare Committee to restore the child back to the parents, back to his community, back to the same socio-economic conditions at the earliest. And for this restoration, they can take help of all the stakeholders, like they can take the help of District Child Protection Unit, they can take the help of Special Juvenile Police Unit, and if the child present before them is of a foreign national, they can write to the district magistrate for the early restoration of that child. Declaration of orphan, abandoned and surrendered child as legally free for adoption after due inquiry. So, students, in adoption, an important duty is casted upon the Child Welfare Committee to declare a child who is presented before them as orphan, abandoned and surrendered, that too after a proper inquiry, as legally free. Before adoption of any child, the child has to get an declaration of being legally free, that too by the Child Welfare Committee. Taking suo motu cognizance of cases and reaching out to children in need of care and protection who are not produced before the committee, provided that such decision is taken by at least 3 members. Where a case comes to the notice of the Child Welfare Committee that a child is working in contravention to the labor laws, the committee will not sit and wait that somebody will produce the child before the committee. The committee on its own, on suo motu, will approach the child, will ensure that the child rights are protected and that the child is safe, and ensure that the child is produced before the Child Welfare Committee at the earliest. Taking action for rehabilitation of sexually abused children who are reported as children in need of care and protection to the committee by Special Juvenile Police Unit or a local police, as the case may be, under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. In some cases, the perpetrator of the crime is in the home only. Child Welfare Committee encountered many cases where the perpetrator of sexual violence is the father of the victim, and such child is also a child in need of care and protection and needs to be produced, and his rehabilitation plan has to be prepared by the Child Welfare Committee, dealing with cases referred by the board under subsection 2 of section 17. And in many cases where a child victim is produced before the Juvenile Justice Board and the board feels that the child is in need of care and protection, they can refer that case to the Child Welfare Committee, who has to receive that case and has to work for the rehabilitation of the said child. Coordinating with the police, labor department and other agencies involved in the care and protection of children, with support of the District Child Protection Unit or the state government in the case of a complaint of abuse of a child in any child care institution, the committee shall conduct an inquiry and give directions to the police or the District Child Protection Unit or the Labour Department or the Childline Services as the case may be. Here also an important duty of Child Welfare Committee is to coordinate with the police, Labour Department and other agencies. We will try to understand this. A child was found abandoned, specially abled child was found abandoned on a railway station. The child was not able to disclose any information about himself, but from his expression and gestures, it was apparent that the child belonged to a family and
he was separated from them.
now the duty on the Child Welfare Committee is to rehabilitate and restore the child to his family at the earliest. Since the child is specially abled and is not able to share any information about himself, the Child Welfare Committee traces of his family can be easily located. So, the duties of the Child Welfare Committee is as such that there is no limit that they can do for the child. It's just that they need to have that will inside them to work for the child, and any other functions and responsibilities as may be prescribed by the government. So, Child Welfare Committee has to take cognizance of all the cases produced before them. They have to initiate an inquiry, they have to direct the Child Welfare Police Officer, Child Welfare Officer or the District Child Protection Unit for conducting the social investigation report. They can place the child in foster care meanwhile, they can place the child in any child care institution pending inquiry, they can rehabilitate
And do restoration of an abandoned child
or lost child to their families at the earliest. They have to mandatorily inspect the child care institutions. Declaration of orphan, abandoned and surrendered child as legally free for adoption. It is also a very important duty of the Child Welfare Committee to declare a child an orphan, abandoned and surrendered so that he can get his family support at the earliest. Taking suo motu cognizance of cases and reaching out to children, as we have already explained, the Child Welfare Committee does not have to sit and wait for somebody to produce the child before it. They have to reach to the child by themselves, and that too at the earliest. Abused children or sexually abused children can be referred to Children Court or Juvenile Justice Board for their rehabilitation. The child in need of care and protection can be produced from other agencies before the Child Welfare Committee, and they have to take cognizance and issue inquiry and make rehabilitation plan for that child also. Coordinate with other departments, education, labour, police, district legal services authority and so forth. In many cases, child POXO victims are produced before the Child Welfare Committee where they have no money for to support their basic needs. The Child Welfare Committee can write to District Legal Services Authority for the interim compensation of such victims. Executing the deed of surrender, as I explained earlier, before giving any child in adoption, a deed has to be executed for surrender child, and that too in the front of a Child Welfare Committee in the presence of 3 members. Who can produce the child before the Child Welfare Committee? Section 31. Any child in need of care and protection may be produced before the committee by any of the following persons, namely any police officer, Special Juvenile Police Unit, Child Welfare Police Officer, any other officer of District Child Protection Unit, inspector under labour law for the time being in force, any public servant, Childline Service or any voluntarily or NGO recognized by the state government, child welfare officer, probation officer, any social worker or even a public spirited citizen or by the child himself. Any nurse, doctor, management of a nursing home, provided that the child shall be produced before the committee without any loss of time, but within a period of 24 hours excluding the time of the journey. The state government may make rules consistent with this act to provide for the manner of submitting the report to the committee and the manner of sending the child to a children home or facility or a fit person as the case may be after the inquiry. So, this section says if any child who needs care and protection, this is the duty of all, even
mine and even yours.
it is the duty of everybody that the child is produced before the Child Welfare Committee within a stipulated period of 24 hours, excluding the time taken in the journey. Section 32, mandatory reporting regarding a child found separated from a guardian. Here, the principle of best interest of child is incorporated under section 32, which says a child who appears or claims to be abandoned or lost, or child who appears or claims to be an orphan without family support, to be informed Child Welfare Committee, Childline Services, Special Juvenile Police Unit, Police, District Child Protection Unit, Child Care Institution. The information regarding a child shall be mandatorily uploaded on the government portal. This section says, if anybody finds a child who is either orphan, who is abandoned, who is missing, living alone on the street, has to mandatorily report. This is not a choice. If anybody comes about the knowledge of a case who is living in difficult circumstances, situations, they have to mandatorily report the case of the child to the Child Welfare Committee, the Special Juvenile Police Unit, the Child Care Institution, and the Child Welfare Committee has to ensure that the information of such child is uploaded on the concerned portal. Information regarding a child found separated from a guardian is not given within the period of specified in the said section. Such act shall be regarded as an offence. Now, section 33 talks about section 32, which says the mandatorily reporting. If any person deliberately not share the information of a missing abandoned child with the Child Welfare Committee, with the police or with the District Child Protection Unit, this deliberate omission has been made an offence and its punishment is described in section 34. Any person who has committed an offence of not informing shall be liable to imprisonment up to 6 months or fine of 10,000 rupees or both. Here, the Child Welfare Committee, if found that a person who had deliberately hidden an information and had secretly kept a child with him without disclosing the information of the missing child with the concerned, can order for the imprisonment, can order for the fine up to 10,000 rupees or both. Here, the mandate of the act is very clear, the best interest of the child and the principle of safety of the child. Section 37. Now, let us see what orders the Child Welfare Committee pass in relation to the child in need of care and protection. The committee, on being satisfied through the inquiry that the child before the committee is a child in need of care and protection, may on consideration of SIR report and taking into account the child's wishes in case the child is sufficiently mature to take a view, pass one or more of the following orders, namely, declaration that a child is in need of care and protection, restoration of a child to the parents, guardians or a family, placement of the child in children home, fit facility, specialized adoption agency as the case may be, placement of a child with the fit person for long term or temporary care, foster care orders, sponsorship orders, direction to persons or institutions or facilities in whose care the child is placed regarding care, protection and rehabilitation of such child, including directions relating to immediate shelter and services such as medical attention, psychiatric, psychological support, including need-based counseling, occupational therapy or behavior modification therapy, skill training, legal aid, educational services and other developmental activities as required, as well as follow-up and coordination with the District Child Protection Unit or a state government and other agencies. Declaration that a child is legally free for adoption under section 38. The committee may also pass orders for the declaration of fit person for foster care, getting aftercare support under section 46 of the Act or any other order related to any other function as may be prescribed. So, let us see in simple words section 37, which says, after inquiry and considering the SIR and wishes of the child, if the child is mature enough to express, let us say if the child is of 2 years or 1.5 years, obviously he cannot express his expressions, the child welfare committee has to make that decision for himself. And if a child who has been found abandoned or living alone is of 11 or 12 years, who can express his desires and his feelings, his want, the child welfare committee has to ensure the right of participation to that child and to write his wishes in a order. Following orders will be passed after the inquiry. Declare that child is in need of care and protection. So, this is the first order which the child welfare committee has to ensure after an inquiry. If it has been found, if it has been corroborated by the circumstances that the child is in need of care and protection and requires state intervention, then the child welfare committee will declare the child as child in need of care and protection. Restoration of the child to parents, guardians, either with follow up or without. The most important duty, if a child is found abandoned and his family is traced, the child welfare committee is the only competent authority who can restore the child back to the family, that too with follow up or without. In some cases where child welfare committee feels that the relationship between the child and the parents is not very conducive, they can ask for the follow up to ensure that the child is going to the school, that the child is getting food, that the child is living in a comfortable position at his home. They can ask for the follow up, and if the child welfare committee after interaction with the parents feels that in this case the follow up is not required, they can restore the child without the order of follow up also. If the child family can't be found, or if going back to their family is not the best thing for the child, CWC can place the child in a children's home or in an adoption agency as the case may be. If after making an inquiry, and this is required after an inquiry, if the child welfare committee is of opinion that the child is alone and there is no one to look after the child will be sent by the child welfare committee to the child care institution or the specialized adoption agency as the case may be. Placement with fit person for long term or temporary care, foster care orders. CWC is the only competent authority who can place the child with the fit person either for the long term or for the permanent care. CWC is the competent authority to declare the child legally free for adoption, sponsorship orders or immediate shelter, as we have discussed earlier. If the child has to be given in adoption, he has to be declared legally free by the child welfare committee, and that order has to be signed by the 3 members. And if the child is to be sent for sponsorship where the CWC ensures that the vulnerability of a child is reduced while he is staying in the family, can order for the monthly allowance for the child to ensure that he stays comfortable in his family. Medical attention, psychiatric and counseling, occupational theory. Sometimes child welfare committee can encounter a case of a child who is emotionally and mentally very disturbed, and that child needs psychiatric counseling. To ensure his well-being, that order is also made by the child welfare committee in the restoration order. Behavior modification therapy and skill training. This is also very important. Somewhere we encountered children, child welfare committee encountered children where they do not undergoing school education or not learning any new thing. The child welfare committee ensure that the proper counseling of the parents and the child is taken care of, and can order in the restoration order for the skill training. The child can be linked with any government scheme to enable him to earn his livelihood and to live a better life in future. Legal aid, educational services, rehabilitation of the child and other developmental activities. The child welfare committee in its final order also suggests these recommendations in case of child in need of care and protection. Now, let us quickly see the section 36. On production of a child in need of care and protection, CWC hold an inquiry, and this inquiry has to be completed in 4 months. CWC cannot take 6 months time, 10 months time to complete the inquiry of a child. Keeping the principle of best interest of child in mind, the inquiry has to be completed within the period of 4 months, and order SIR, which has to be received back to the Child Welfare Committee within the 15 days. Children who are orphaned, surrender or appear to be abandoned shall be placed in a specialized adoption agency. The Child Welfare Committee, after inquiry, can place the children in specialized adoption agency if they are less than 6 years. If they are more than 6 years, then the suitable children home in the district, or they can also place the child with the fit facility or a fit person after thorough inquiry of that person or the institution. The committee shall submit a quarterly report to the district magistrate about the number of cases handled by them during that period, the welfare steps taken by them, number of children restored, rehabilitated and repatriated must. District magistrate will submit the report to the state government, and on the basis of that report, the state government may constitute more than one CWC in a district if the case load is too large, and even dismiss the committee on the grounds of non-performance. If the committee, after inquiry into the case, is satisfied that the child needs care and protection, and also after considering the child's social investigation report and also the child's own wish, the committee can pass one or more orders to declare that the child is in need of care and protection, to restore the child back to their parents, guardians or family, either with follow-up or not. If the child's family can't be found, or if going back to their family is not the best thing for the child, CWC can place the child in a children home or in adoption agency as the case may be. Place the child with the fit person, decide on a foster care, decide on a financial help or otherwise. Conclusion. In summary, child welfare committees created under the Act play a critical role in promoting and protecting the rights of vulnerable children by providing legal protection, advocating for their best interests, preventing abuse and exploitation, facilitating alternative care arrangements, overseeing rehabilitation efforts, engaging with the communities and fostering
Interagency
collaboration. Their work indispensable in creating a safe and nurturing environment within the society where every child can thrive and reach their full potential. So students, in conclusion, I'll say Child Welfare Committee. It is quite obvious from the name that this committee is for the welfare of the child in need of care and protection. Thank you.
Many a times we all think, who am I? Why am I doing whatever I am doing? Why do I feel attracted towards others? Why do I feel very aggressive in certain instances? Why certain people or certain type of acts, they repel me? Why is it that I always search for certain things which look very, very ambiguous? These are the things, these are the questions that all of us experience, all human beings. and you would realize that many a times certain domains of knowledge, especially within social sciences and all sciences at large, when you look at it from a philosophical point of view, they would try to give you the answers to these questions. Now, one of the branches of understanding which helps you understand things much better, which also helps you understand not only what is visibly present before you, what is glaringly apparent to you, rather which also tells you what is not visible at all, what goes within. Okay. And this is the subject knowledge, what is called as psychology. It is not only that it helps you understand the manifested behavior, the overt behavior, how you talk, how you speak, how you say it, how you interact, how you respond, not only that, but also what goes within, what makes you do this, what makes you think this way, what makes you act that way. Why is it that certain things you appreciate, certain things you feel attracted towards, and why is it that many a times in certain type of situations you feel you should completely go out of it, you should not get anyway involved into it, the repulsion. Why is it that certain acts, although you do not appreciate, still you get involved into it? Then you reinterpret your own behavior and you start giving birth to certain type of experiences, shame, guilt, pleasure, appreciation. You see world in a particular way, you analyze it in a particular way, you derive emotion out of it, feeling out of it, and the mix of what you perceived along with what you experience, it makes you act in a particular way, respond in a particular way. Your response is received by somebody else, and then the other person also responds in that situation. Now, there are situations where several people interact simultaneously. The situation remains constant and different people interact at the same time. You realize that your identity gets lost. You are not an individual. You act what is called as group behavior. You realize that you do not have an explanation for either favoring somebody or completely being unfavorable to the other person. You later on realize that it was a favorable or an unfavorable attitude towards that individual. You realize that you repeat certain form of behavior. Why? You do not know. People tell you that such type of repetitions are not normal. Human beings largely do not do that. And then you realize that okay, this is a particular pattern of a behavior for which I require the help of a specialist. The specialist tells me that this pattern of behavior is given a particular taxonomy, a particular nomenclature, which is either some aberration in the normal behavior, it is a neurotic form of a behavior, psychotic form of a behavior, it could be a psychosomatic response. And psychology, it covers all of this. So, if you want to understand yourself, if you want to understand others, this is the subject which helps you achieve that target. It is behavioral sciences that makes you understand human beings, human responses, human existence in complete totality.